Okay, so before I continue on with that car over there, there's some questions I need to answer based on this package trade panel and how it's all going to fit up in there. So I'm starting to strip out all the wiring back here and getting ready to try and retrieve that panel out of here. I'm afraid it's probably going to mean we got to try and remove that back window to get to some of the. I want to drill out the welds, make it as neat as possible because I want that thing in one piece. We'll see if that's possible. Anyway, on previous builds, it's always been an issue. I don't want to take all the wiring out of the car. It's just a lot of trying to remember where it goes back and so forth. There's a lot of wasted time if you don't have to. So, but the wiring is getting more and more complicated, and there's more of it. So usually I just take the harness and I wrap it back as far as I can, detach it and wrap it back and put it in a plastic bag to protect it. But this time I've actually just gone ahead and made a little wooden box for it. As you see, the wiring goes in here, and I'll just screw a lid down to it like that. The main reason is because, well, there's so much of it, and there's all these modules that go with it, and you know, the last thing you want to hear is when you're moving around in a car is you hear a crunchy noise and look and see something essential's been smashed by your big foot. Anyway, so I'm going to put this all that wiring in there, 50 pounds of stuff in a 2-pound bag, as you can see, and that way if I accidentally step on it, I step on the wooden box and not all the wiring, and I've got another bunch of wire over there. That's all just for the back of this car. It's amazing, right? Anyway, so that's where I'm at now. Okay, so I just got done pulling the rear glass out. It came out, well, not too much of a fight, but it's interesting. So I was wondering because the car didn't look that bad, but it had an oddly rumpled roof in the back over here. So I was wondering what happened because the back window was obviously intact. So I thought that was just weird damage. Anyway, it turns out what they did was this something significant fell on this roof, and as you can see from the remnants of the broken glass that it smashed the roof enough to pop the rear window. So what they did really quickly is they took a jack in the center here, and you can see how it's a little what they call house topped. In other words, it's got a peak in it, and the window bed itself is pretty rumpled up. So what they did was they just pumped a bunch of urethane around the perimeter to make up for the fact that the roof was all screwed up, and so was the window bed, so that it would have a window in it when it went to auction or something. At any rate, that's not exactly the correct way to do it. That roof skin should have been replaced, and that should have been all straightened out before they glued a window back into this thing. So anyway, that's out, and that answers the question as to why this was salvaged with such low mileages on it. Something really big hit that roof and bent it down quite a bit, and then they just took a jack and pushed it all back up and popped the window back in it. At any rate, that was just an exercise so that I could get to this package tray panel here, and we'll proceed with trying to extract that. Okay, so it was a wrestle fest, but I got that out of there. Now, the thing of it is that what's going to happen here, what happened on the last car, because it was a tunnel back, is we cut everything down. We cut everything back, and we cut everything down to here, which this becomes the new package tray for a tunnel back, as you can see where the tunnel back lands. Well, we've got a little extra height here with this window back here, so we still need to trim it on the same line. So this is the old pattern for what ended up being the package tray. On the other car, it's about 9 1/8 from where it hits back there to where it's got to get trimmed off. Now, this front line here coincides, oh boy, coincides with this edge right here. In other words, if I trim that off at 9 1/8 right there, that will line right up with this. So anyway, so you can see how this would stack up on top of where the tunnel back package tray would be, right at this level right here. So I'm going to see what it looks like for that extra height, see how it plays out. And I already know that it works with my car. We're just going to see. It's going to be, instead of me trying to where with my car, I left all of this in, and then I kept, like I said, raising and lowering the body and cutting out, you know, where it was interrupting the body. I wasn't satisfied with the way it all came together. So now I'm going to put these pieces in separately. So anyway, that's what I was after, and that's what I'm up to. All right. Not 100% sure this is all going to work out the way I want it to, but the first thing I've done is I've taken, based on the pattern that I had before, of where the front of the package tray, the new package tray, I should say, would line up in the new car once they're mended together. I have to trim off at least 6 inches on the old package tray and remove that section from the car. Hopefully that should correspond to the leading edge of this new package tray. Anyway, that's what it looks like inside, just cutting that off right there. All right, to make sure as I go in and start trimming this up and clearing everything out that this is going into that car properly, I've got this angled face here. So what I need to do right now, what I have done is I've gone ahead and I've leveled the rocker here, which that's how I get all my relationship points, because this is going to be even with the pinch weld on the other side, or excuse me, on the other car. And so this is a good reference point. So once this is level and that's level, I can confidently take the angle of the that flange back there, and then I could use that as a reference to make sure that I've got this package tray, when I'm fitting it up in there, tilted to the right angle, at least within a couple of degrees. What I'm doing here really is I want to get this package tray set in here. I'm not going to permanently install it until excuse me, both cars are mended together. I just need to know the clearances on the C-posts, how it relates to the back window, how much I need to clear out to rebuild and modify the C-posts in order for me to start building my headliner. So it doesn't make any sense for me to put the headliner in and have to pull it out once the two cars are together to trim around all of this nonsense over here. So I want to make sure that I don't build the headliner down too far. So this is just going to be fit in there to give me an indication as to how far I need to go inside my sail panels with my headliner. I'm not actually going to install this right now. It might be off a half an inch here and there, you know, based on just minor differences from car to car. All right, using a smart level, I bent this temporary leading edge for this package tray so that it will reflect the same angle as in the car, which is approximately 63 degrees with that car leveled out at the rockers. So this also gives me a reference of how far down the panel's got to slide past this level here. So it's 1 inch beyond that to line up with the flange that goes almost vertical in the other car. So that gives me an idea of how high up I have to have the panel clamped in order for it to mate up inside the other car. Okay, first rough fit of this. As you can see, this is my guide here. It's clamped to this is this little bent piece of metal that I put on here to create an artificial rim, and that's about where it lays when it goes in. When the two cars will be mended together, this is where it'll be positioned. Now, there's probably there's quite a bit of difference between this, the way this slopes up, and the way my car was. Mine was tilted down a little bit, and it just led right into the bottom of the glass just very nicely. But this is the Challenger's different back glass, so I'm going to have to do some adaptations. I might have to cut about 1 inch out of this, which I can still do that and maintain my latches. My latches are what I'm mainly concerned about. That's what this whole exercise is about. I mean, I could have put any old package tray back there behind the seats and it wouldn't have mattered, but utilizing this, the speaker locations are mounted properly, and this latch here will latch the backs of the seats as they relate to the floor. Now, when I lower it, I'll have to be mindful of the depth of the speakers. So that's the other thing. With this tilted up like this, it's a little too close to where you couldn't get the speaker in and out if you tried. It's a little too close, and then there's a amplifier that bolts up here, and then another speaker over here. So I have to get this. You can see the angle that I cut initially, starting at this high point here and running downhill to the window, so that this ends up being 3/4 of an inch below this window over here. Because what happens is this top cover here, which is molded, fits on top of there, and there's a gap of about 3/4 of an inch that allows space for this top mounted piece over here. Now, if I was in a real bind, I'd just mount this cut up pocket and drop this down a little lower. Who knows, I may end up having to do that, and then, you know, do a fully custom top. But I'd like to take the top of this piece here and then just mend it and recover it, and, you know, so that I get these belt loop openings, and also this belt over here. I don't know, we'll see. But I have the opportunity, like I said, to cut out about an inch here and still maintain the latches in their location, and drop this front edge and change the angle of it so it leads into the back window at the bottom a little bit better than that. Anyway, that's where I am with this. Okay, so I just bent this a little bit so that it would go, and I dropped that angle over there so this would go straighter into the back here, like that. But what I think I'm gonna do is, it's just sitting in there right now. What I think I'm gonna do is, I think I'm just gonna cut around these speaker holes and leave the speaker holes where they're at. I don't know. I've got a lot of options right here, and I don't have to make up my mind just right now. But I think the this little center mounted amplifier here, that can go down. You see how far down this Dutchman panel is? I could drop that way down. There's no reason for it to be up that high. And I could also drop this front edge if I need to in the future. My main goal was to make sure that this thing fit in there. To make sure that I still had these latch positions, like I said before. And also, I have to make sure that I reintroduce some support where I've cut out this inner sail panel here, and get all this welded back together here, so that's fully supported around in the inside. So that now, once I figure out what I want to do, I'm probably going to drop this a little bit, just to make the installation of the headliner, because it's going to be one piece. It's going to come out and come down. I kind of got to know where this is going to be within at least 3/4 of an inch, because, you know, I'm going to be putting up a little bit of a raised package tray over here, and this, so basically I have to know where my limits are of where this is going to be. So I have to make up my mind on some of these things. But anyway, that's where that's all going to fit, and we're going to move on from here. I wish I could tell you exact method on how to get this all cut out, but it was it was a hunt and peck method, sort of just cutting away as I went, and making sure that I was getting to my targets. At any rate, that's where I am right now. Okay, so this is what it's looking like without that package tray, the new package tray in there. This is how much I've had to relieve it. I've cut out this inner structure over here. I've cut out the inner sail panel down to about here, left this together, left all of this together down here. This is all tied in right here. I'll be coming back and clearing out most of this structure under here, so it's important that this all stay until I get it all linked back together. You can see right here, this is the last roof bow, and as we come off of here, we'll be able to finish out nicely about 3/4 of an inch away from the back window over here. So what I'm doing now is I'm developing a substructure piece here so that I can tie this to this piece over here in a smooth transition. So that's what I'm up to right now. Okay, I quickly just tossed this package tray back up in here to see how this looks. This has all been filled in with 035 sheet metal, so that now the transitions on the headliner will go straight into the back window like that. And there won't be any. With the tunnel back on the original Daytonas, they swept up, hit the tunnel back window opening, then went straight back like that, a little triangle that was added. And anybody who owns one knows that that's always wrinkled up and looking like an afterthought. So now it'll sweep from this point here straight over here and then roll up into the window bed over here. We'll just take this off here for a minute and so you can see what the rest of it looks like. Okay, so as you can see, I finished closing it in over here. This is the original tunnel back is here, so you can see that would have been all the way up to here. So I did these closures here, and I have to go back in here with some seam sealer around these edges here and cover up all these areas where it's just spotted in. Also, I went ahead and I welded it up in this inside corner here because I'll be cutting away. This is just a return flange of 3/4 of an inch, which is spot welded to this other structure here. All this structure is going away here because this wants to sit right down on the other car, right on this panel here. So all of this has to go away, and I haven't figured out how much of this I want to cut away just yet. But anyway, that's what it looks like. I'll back up here a little bit so you can see that it's a much smoother transition into the window. And that's the way I prefer to see it. Like I said, the original Daytonas were kind of thrown together really quickly. In fact, people who restore old Daytonas, if they have, they're going with an original Daytona, when they go to refurbish the plug, take the glass out and everything, they find out that there's lots of broken glass back here because they were in such a hurry at Creative Industries to put the window plugs in and produce the cars that they would just take a center punch and pop the rear window, clean out as much glass as they could real quick, then put the plug in, and they would cover everything with the headliner. So anyway, we're going to take a little bit more time than that. All right, so I'm trying to build the piece that will, of sheet metal that will extend from here to the back glass at the bottom from the this package tray. And what I'm doing now is I've created this ledge that is shrunk to the arc of the back window. There's a slight arc in the back window at the base. Oh, let's get in here and see. As you can see there, this piece will fit just underneath the window bed. And then what will happen here is I'll have a 3/4 inch space where I can create any booster padding to bring the package tray, the final package tray cover, right up to underneath the glass over here. So you can see that's got an arc, and what we have on this package tray is a pretty straight edge across the front, which is not that big of a deal because this is a pretty gradual arc by the time you get to the back window. But I wanted to make sure that where I extended it from had an arc also. So when I cut this out of the Challenger, I left this return flange on the back side, and this sits right on the existing Dutchman panel, which is nice, so it could be welded right to it when I'm done here. So this little edge here enabled me to basically shrink it down with the shrinker and create just a slight arc to match this piece so that everything goes from a smooth transition from this straight edge to a gradual arc in the back window. So that's what I'm up to now. All right, so I've got this temporarily tacked in here so that I can maintain the angle. I've got this spot welded in, this little ledger. Just using a piece of 3/4 inch wood here, basically to check my angle out. As you can see, there's a flat spot, and then it facets right here and heads downhill a little bit, but right here at the facet, this is leading right into the back here. So my this is my maximum. It's 3/4 of an inch. I may only end up using a 1/2 inch build up here, depending on how high up this this little box, this electrical box sits. It doesn't sit very much higher than these studs, I can tell you that much. But at any rate, that pretty much goes from this point down and tucks in under here. So now I can make my panel for this area right here. These will all be removable for the time being, because this panel may have to move back or forth depending on how this fits down exactly onto this. This I want to fit exactly on to where it came away from on that other car. So this may need to shift a little bit in order to meet those marks. So this is not permanent. I'll just cut those 2 tacks and take it back out, and then I'll make these panels and just click this panel in. The reason I'm fooling with this now is so much easier to get in and out. Like I said, this car right now with it up in the air, no floor to deal with, no crawling around, and get all this stuff taken care of at least 90% of the way. That way, the most I have to do is maybe trim this panel down, or even if I have to make a new one, if it has to move forward a little bit, you know, I've got plenty of room here. This should be enough room for this adjoining panel to marry this back window bed to this package tray. And we'll go on from here. All right, so I'm starting to do the template for the paper template for this extension panel. Now I've got this piece laying on top of here, so it's very difficult to find the edge that I want to find, obviously, because it's blind. So there's a trick that I've used for years. Basically, I put some 2-inch tape down on that exact edge where I want to find that edge. Now I'm going to be adding another inch to that edge, but right now I want to mark the actual edge. So what I've done is put that 2-inch tape down, and what I'll do is drop this in, and using this guide right here is I'll just lay this tape right on that edge right here and do that all the way down, and then I'll be able to mark, because it's projecting that line into this location on the top side. So I'll just do that, mark the line, add my inch, and that'll be the trim. Okay, so here's what that pattern looks like. This was my line for my edge. As you can see, it lines up with that edge. And then I had some 1-inch tape, just added it to the line and trimmed it along that line so that I have my 1-inch overlap. Also, I'm just adding pieces of paper in here so that it fits snugly up against the edge inside here. All right, so when you got an awkward shape like this, sometimes it's hard to find a center, you know, measuring from all these, trying to find a spot where you can get an accurate measurement. So basically, I've made my pattern oversized for one side. I want to make this in 2 pieces, so I want to find the center so I can divide this into 2 panels. So first thing I've done is I've gone ahead and I've marked it at the end of this pattern here and here, which is longer than the center. Then I'll flip this over, and since it's symmetrical, I'll fit this into that side. I'll go ahead and I'll mark it off on that side, and then over there also I'll mark it off. And then all I have to do is to measure between these 2 lines here, and then there'll be another line over there, and that'll give me the dead center of these 2 panels that mirror each other, instead of having to try to fool around with a ruler and try to get it fit in there and try to find a common point. All right, so that's what that looks like, those 2 panels set in there. Anyway, you can see that I have just a little break there to keep it rigid in the center. Basically, I'm going to drill these out and plug weld them when the time comes. Also, because this is sheet metal and it could set up a vibration once these speakers get to rolling, I'm going to glue a 1/2 inch, it's an under hood mat, fiberglass. I'll put that underneath here to dampen these things, to make sure that they don't vibrate when it comes time to crank up the stereo. But anyway, it'll be welded on both this side and that side all the way down every 2 inches, so just as an insurance policy. But anyway, this gives me what I need to know as far as the interior of the back of the sail panel and how that's all going to interact with the headliner, which was my main objective, to see how that was all going to go. And so I've got to start, well, I'm not going to work on that next. I'm going to continue to clear out the material underneath of this and see how much of this material I need to cut away also, and maybe put some mend plates in there. What I've also done was I've trimmed away the excess material on the rockers, and taken these sections here, cut them free. This is a molded section, so these are basically able to be pulled down now to the angle that they need to be pulled down to. This is the inner frame rail, and I'm going to just box this frame rail off with some plates, just some 70,000ths, just because it's in good shape, and it's brand new actually, and it's inside there and it won't interfere with anything. So just a little extra strength, it's not going to hurt anything. Anyway, like I said, I got to get to figuring out what I need to cut out over here. I've got this pattern that I saved from the last project, which fits right around the plenum. That's this piece over here, and then it tells me exactly where the tops of the wheel humps are going to be on either side, and how much I need to clear away on the bottom side of that existing package tray. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so that prep's finally done. We've got this all cleared out all the way up to the bottom of this old package tray, flush all the way around, and then I'll be cutting the top of the wheel tubs off on the other car and making them flush, so that this will just sit right on top there. I decided that I'm going to include the rear belts in this car, so I've cut out here a little bit because there's a pocket with a welded nut in the door panel, or the rear quarter door panel, and the Challenger, so that's what that relief cut's for. You can see the blue line is where the top of the substructure for the package tray is, and I'll be putting in or building my headliner just a little bit higher than that. So I've got to start with my perimeter around my window, and I've got to put all my my window tracking back in and my rubber moldings, so I can get the relationship between the edge here and the finished moldings. So yeah, that's quite the project I'm heading into right now. So it's a bit involved, but again, it's better to try and do it now while I can stand up in this car than to try and struggle climbing in. The little bit of climbing in and out of that car that I've had to do, you know, it's really tough on the back. At any rate, moving on to the next thing. All right, as far as this back window is concerned, went out and got some of this PVC 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch quarter round, and this is basically what the transition will look like from the bottom of the window side into the headliner itself. In other words, this will be what I'm going to be using for the edge of it. I'll have to obviously create an L-shaped metal piece here in order to receive this, and of course when I do get around to filling it in, this will all have to be cut in order to make these radiuses. Anyway, I thought I'd try and use this. This is the last time I made my own, but got to thinking, what the heck am I doing making my own when this stuff's available? At any rate, this is also going to be used hopefully in the windshield area here to round up to the windshield bed. We'll see how that works out too. All right, so I've just been working on the driver's side of this back window, creating the track that's going to be the place where I lead my headliner into, and you can see that it's basically a reverse of the window bed, and so this is the that piece of plastic quarter round, and I just this is basically how this is going to fit in here. And then of course this will all be covered with fabric, but then The rest of the panel will lead off from this edge. So that'll provide a nice little blend that'll roll right up into the bottom of the window. Anyway, I also had to put a tab right here because on a stock Charger with a tunnel back glass, there's enough of a side bed to screw to on the sides of these two little legs that go back into the window. But on this, obviously being all scratch built, there's nothing there to screw into. So I went ahead and bent a 90-degree and plug welded it here and then screwed to the side, making sure that this is 3/4 of an inch, this is 5/8 of an inch, so that this tab doesn't interfere with once this is topped out with a piece of sheet metal. Anyway, continuing on. All right, so I finished the passenger side, this little rim, starter rim over here, and so I've got both of those in right now. And now I'm starting to work on a rim that I can screw the bottom of the bottom edge of the side of the headliner to. And you can see these are just scrap pieces of this molding that cut-offs from when I made the real molding that'll go in this car, because I don't want to damage the real one. So I just got a bunch of cut-offs and put them in place here to represent what's going to be there. There's a little rubber flap here that normally does the transition and covers up the seam with the headliner to the side of the car here. So what I've done is I've got this piece. It's bent over 1/2 of an inch with a 1/4 inch safety edge bent onto it. You can see right there. And then this flange here will follow this. It'll be welded to this, spot welded to this, plug welded, if you will. And that'll create a place where I can screw the bottom through the bottom of the headliner and create a starter strip to get this going on the side over here. And then this rubber will conceal my fasteners. Anyway, that's where we're at with that. Okay, so I've installed this strip all the way up. It's got a 1/2 inch flange on it, so that gives me something I could screw up through. And then later on, after the headliner is installed, this rubber molding that takes in the glass has this rubber flap here that covers up the transition. So this is pretty much what it'll look like. In other words, there's a piece of metal that'll be bent like that, and of course this will be fabric wrapped when the headliner is done. So now I've got to make this starter strip to go around and screw to this flange. At any rate, that's where I'm at right now. I've got to go ahead and create a starter strip for the bottom of the windshield bed here. I've got to install my sun visors, and then I got to get involved with the center console before I can actually start this this headliner. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now. Okay, so this is the return rim, or the starter rim, I should say. It's just Clecoed to the bottom of that piece that I put on directly onto the car over here. And so you can see there's a little step down here, and that's where I'll lead the sheet metal down from the headliner right into the top of this piece right here. So this will be fastened eventually with countersunk steel rivets up into that retainer rim like that. That side's done. This side's also done and ready. I went ahead and created a starter rim here for the below the windshield bed here. I don't know if you can see that. It's a 90-degree, but it's the opposite of the right underneath the base of the windshield bed there. And the sheet metal for the headliner will come in and meet this edge over here. And then once I remove it to finish it out, this will be a spot for, it's hard to see this because it's curved here, but anyway, that's what that'll look like right there, so that the fabric will roll up just underneath the glass, and then the glass will have a frit that's about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch larger than this rim, so everything will hopefully look pretty neat from the inside and the outside. All right, so at any rate, that's it for right now. That'll do it for this week, and I appreciate everybody who was watching. Lots of little knickknacks left to go before we can put these two together. So I appreciate everybody being patient, but these things take time. I'll see you on the next one.